About 3 years ago, I got a telephone call from someone, and on the other end was a voice that said, "My name is Lisa, and I would like to know a little bit about your church." And I told her a little bit, and she said, "I have a husband, but I don't think that he will come." And she said, but he showed up. The next Sunday, he showed up, and Don was very vocal in saying, "I'm an atheist, and this is the way it is." And so we said, "Okay, that's fine. Everybody has their own say in this church," and we agreed to disagree agreeably. And Don has gone through some transitions here from the Mohawk and one thing and another. So Don has really cleaned up well this morning. And it is such a pleasure to have Don and Lisa and those little girls in the church. So Don, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Ava. Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to talk. I try not to be too terribly conventional, so there's still that spirit of the Mohawk, even when I'm wearing a shirt and tie. There's a movie, SLC Punk, about a punk movement in Salt Lake City during the 80s. And you can imagine how well that went, like a lead balloon. At the very end of the movie, Matthew Lillard, who plays the main character, who at the start of the movie had an impressive hawk. We're talking about, this tall, it just kind of just flopped. He surely could have gotten neck injuries from wearing that thing, But after, trials and tribulations, he ended up realizing that the system is strong. It's better to fight from the inside. And as I get older, I'm starting to learn the wisdom in that. Fighting on the outside isn't always necessarily you're on the outside. People aren't listening to you because you're on the outside. And the same thing happens with politeness, blessings, curses. They have no power if you don't believe, but yet they do. A show of hands, who says bless you when someone sneezes? All right? Who feels guilty if they don't? Who will stumble over themselves to say bless you to a complete stranger? It's just built into us. And the only reason that ever came into effect is people believed long time ago that your soul was escaping when you sneezed. So make sure that you say bless you, because there's a little bit of your soul. That's not phlegm. And it's not the grossness, that's not your soul in your back pocket, and we have this need to apologize. We go out of our way to run to a door and hold it open, and then get mad if someone doesn't say thank you. Yet, if someone held the door for me, I didn't, and I didn't ask for it. There's this awkwardness that comes into play that maybe I did. Maybe I wanted to open the door myself, but now we hold this resentment for someone who was a complete stranger, and you were going out of your way to be nice. Here, let me do you a favor, but then we walk away angry. It's silly that we do that, but we do. We do very, very often. We volunteer our time. We volunteer, and people say, "Thank you so very much." And we say, "It's the least I could do." No, it's not. It's all we wanted to give, all we could give. But that's, how dare us be proud of what we offered and shared with someone. We have to make sure that if I had more, I would give it. And that's maybe what we're trying to say when we say, it's the least I could do. But if you stop and think about it, it is saying, I had a lot more to give, but I'm not gonna. When really, very seldom is that what we're doing. If all we can afford is time to share, then that's what we give. And we should be happy with ourselves to give these things. It doesn't always have to be money. There's all these settings are so arbitrary. There's a concept in a book called Priceless that's basically saying that none of us have any clue what anything is monetarily worth. In fact, a group of college students were divided up based off of their Social Security number. And the higher the last digit of their Social Security number was that they used as their identifier, the more often they were to bid higher. They had a higher anchor point. If your number was 7, you were going to be more inclined to bid higher. If your number was 0, you weren't walking away with much. So we don't have any tangible grasp. The stock market thrives under the concept of buy low and sell high. But if we stop and think about that, how can that even work? If everybody wants to sell for whatever they're selling is worth the most, but whatever you're selling is not worth the same amount. That is why things like eBay, where it used to be this pretty cool place to find these rare treasures, it's now everybody is just tearing their grandparents' attics apart to go make $1,000. Like everybody's 1950s baseball card has got to be worth something. Where it didn't matter. It's not like a Mickey Mantle card. It's just, well, this is a 1950s card. It's worth something, right? Well, sure, to somebody, maybe to that person's family, but the value is so disparate from what we believe. And the same thing with prayers. Same thing with blessings. Why I struggle with being somebody who is outside of the traditional theological thoughts. And so I end up finding myself holding a lot of resentment when somebody says, "Oh, thank you. Bless your heart. Thank God for what you've done. Thank God for you being in our lives." And there's a private part of me that is like, yet if I told you that I did not believe that your God exists, however, I don't mind that you believe. If that's the thing that helps you, so be it. But I hold a fear that if they knew that I didn't agree, it would have dire repercussions of this relationship. Our youngest, Sam, goes to a in-house daycare. And this lady named, everybody just calls her Granny. Sweet, adorable lady. But we were terrified that she might find out that we weren't like them. And so, of course, we don't broach that subject. And very seldom do we broach these types of subjects. I know from my own personal experience, the arguments about prayers in school, it's not about, please, by all means, pray to your God. Or don't pray, or whatever it is for yours. But I always have struggled because it seems the argument about prayer in school is about a Christian prayer in school. It's not room for all to feel at their most comfortable. And I think, and we only get to those type of conversations by having these types of conversations. Those conversations that make us uncomfortable. The things that we don't like to talk about. The things that make us squirm in our seats. The things that make us just smile and nod and say, "Bless your heart." A fabulous Southern saying that usually means either "I think you're an idiot," It's never nice. There's nothing nice about bless your heart. But we all know it, and it has certain applications in certain times. It's just like where, God, what an idiot just doesn't fit the bill. But bless your heart does. We say thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Don't worry about it. Like we stumble over ourselves all day long over these niceties. We teach our children, don't talk to strangers. Yet everyone starts off as a stranger. How can we... And so if we keep everybody at an arm's length and never let anyone in, how in the world do we ever not stop being strangers? Where do we allow the room and space to grow? When I started coming here, I was perfectly okay with never stepping foot in any type of church, whatever. And yet I found some comfort here. Through just saying the words, I'm an atheist, has allowed me to realize, why do I want to define myself by what I'm not? Why do I have to be like, this is not a purple tie. This is every color but purple. We would not get very far in discussions if that is how we talked. The Germanic language loves to just slam words together. Like, August, I'm sure you remember, like, if it may have just been the speed limit sign, but, there's 26 characters in those types of phrases. When we just slam it all together, it makes it hard to understand. It also makes it hard to understand, to have discussions. Like, if we don't believe the same way others may, and yet are interested in having a mutual respect, how do we have that mutual respect if we don't know where we stand? If we don't have our own foundation in our feelings, how in the world can we ask anybody else? Where is my place to be angry at someone saying, bless you, thank you, God bless you? Like, if I have not have a definition of what I am, not what I'm not, and we find ourselves in these positions over and over and over again with these, some call it political correctness, that you can't say certain words, and by not saying certain words, things just stop being there. Like racism, reverse racism, sexism. It's not sexism, it's this, it's that. We don't talk. We don't communicate. Nor do we give our fellow person any space to say how they feel. It's always through our own lens. It's always through our own little tiny speck of all this thing, this world, this life. The people that we just pass on the street. How quick do we jump to conclusions? How quick do we imagine their plight is different than mine? That I have more understanding of this than they do. They can't understand how I feel, of course, if we don't talk. There's been studies about the concepts of prayer, and that there was three groups. There was people who were prayed for. There was people who were not prayed for. But then there was also a third group that was prayed for and then told that they were being prayed for, and they were all people going into surgeries. The people who didn't know they were being prayed for had a 51% complication percentage. The people who were not prayed for had a 52%. They were very, very similar. But the people that knew they were being prayed for, 59%. complications. So there was a pressure put on these people in surgery out of a nicety. Hey, I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about how you feel, and I hope that you make it through this okay. That in and of itself put pressure on those people to make sure that they are okay. And how often do we find ourselves with those pressures? Feeling that we need to perform in a certain way so we don't offend other people and still maintain our individuality. But always remember, we're all an individual, just like everyone else. There's a time and a place for everything, of course. But we run into these situations where it never seems to be enough. It never seems to be okay to just stop fighting. Stop proving. If I can't tell you how many times in my 20s, if I had, the number of times, if I had just read this one more set of scripture, I would have gotten it. Oh, well, you hadn't read this, so, and there was no malice coming from them, but I had frustration. Huge amounts of frustration, because and over the years I've realized my offense came from the belief that if I'm claiming that I'm not interested in this, why would I not take the time to understand that thing that I'm choosing to not participate in? And I've realized that that's normally not how we do things. Normally, we just don't like stuff, and you don't know why. I brought in a book called I Wear the Black Hat, and it's talking all about how we really don't understand what is good, what is bad. It's all subjective. Very seldom is I am against something and it has an objective overtones. And he talks about how much the fact that he hates the Eagles. The Eagles are just the crappiest band in the entire world, and no matter what they put out, he was going to dislike it. In fact, he goes so far into explaining from 1984 all the way up to 2003, he has a band each year that he hated for no apparent reason. And then one day, he realized it didn't matter anymore. He doesn't have to hate the Eagles. The actual song, Take It Easy, in and of itself, is just noise coming in your ear. But just hearing those noises made him hate a band. People, individual people. Don Henley, he had a personal opinion of a man he had never met. And so once he realizes that he realizes he doesn't have to hate them anymore, he says, but here's what changed inside my skull. Those qualities no longer make me hate Henley or his band. Instead, they make me appreciate the song itself with a complexity I cannot pretend to understand. They make me realize that I cannot be trusted about anything, that I can't even trust myself. I appreciate the Disco Strangler because I now realize and cannot unrealize that this entire process is a closed circuit happening inside my false consciousness. The only outside element is the sound wave containing the sonic signature. Everything about its latent meaning and its larger merit is being imagined and manipulated by my brain's unwillingness to hold an unexplained opinion. If I like a song or if I dislike a song, I have to explain to myself why that feeling exists. If I'm writing about the song in a public forum, I have to explain it to other people, but my explanation is never accurate unless I flatly declare, I like this and I don't know why, or I dislike this for reasons that can't be quantified. Every other response is the process of taking an abstract feeling and figuring out how I can fit into a lexicon that matches whatever I already want to believe. My mind is not my own. And once that realization calcifies internally, there is no going back. Once you realize you can't control how you feel, it's impossible to believe any of your own opinions. As a result, I can't hate the Eagles. It feels impossible. It feels stupid. The Eagles are real, but they don't exist. They only exist as a way to think about the Eagles. So often does it happen that we live our lives in chains, and we never even know there is no key.